Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the workshop where we're going to be looking at an Affliction Warlock today, doing Mythic Savara. It's going to be a farm kill, and the request that we had that came with this workshop was my damage should be higher. A simple fact is someone recognized their damage should be higher. So let's do a quick word on a number of things. So the workshop we did last week was on the Elemental Shaman, and of course spurred a lot of people to think we didn't know about Ice Fury. That was our mistake. Yes, we did know about Ice Fury, but we thought, considering saying we've had it looked over by a top Elemental Shaman, and we were talking about instant cast spells, is that it was kind of given that we knew about it, and it didn't change our feedback at all. So that was our mistake for not being very specific, and it's often the case that we do take things for granted about what people do know. So if there's anything like that, all I would request is try not to be like Mr. And I know, because this video is actually going to be very hard to do, that I'm about to do right now for this very reason, but workshops do open me up personally for attack. That's kind of why I do it, which is why when people request, like, who are the people you get to look over these videos? They don't really want to know for this very reason. It opens them up for attack even though they're not incorrect. It's just that maybe they left out a phrasing or a word like I did. I didn't say Ice Fury. So people are like, he doesn't know about Ice Fury. It's like, of course we know about Ice Fury. So I will do better. Because it's me who puts myself out there. Now then, there's also a new way to submit the workshops put together by a wonderful member of the community, Chiryu, that I'll talk about at the end of the video for those of you interested in getting yourselves into the workshop. So let's talk about this video and why it's so hard. This video was incredibly difficult to workshop. It was looked over by no less than 9 people. 9 people who exhaustively went above and beyond to figure out what was going on here. So what is going on here? There's a lot happening here. Now, you'll be glad to know, to our submitter, in terms of yourself, there isn't much to say. You actually played pretty fine. There's a couple of little errors here and there, like one less UA on your opening Dark Glare than there could have been, but nothing that was really going to hurt you in a big way. They're all mistakes that kind of happen from time to time, even from the world's best players. It's just some of those things that do happen, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. What we were concerned about, though, and the thing that actually drew me into putting together kind of a group talk session, which is what ended up happening, is I was like, I can't solve this easily. I can't solve this problem easily. But I just told you the gameplay is actually fine. Like, it's right up there. There's no big issues. There's little things here and there, but nothing that's like, nothing I don't think the player's not aware of. Let me put it that way. So going into detail wouldn't be much help. What did bother me, though, that this was a farm kill that took a really long time. Like, nearly 6 odd minutes plus in order to kill this boss. And I remember sitting here watching it, and I'm like, this is going on for a really long time. What? And I was looking at the damage meter, and I'm like, these numbers seem really low. Like, overall, they seem really low. And then I started opening hour logs. I'm like, this kill was, like, way slower than my guild's very first kill. But at this point, it's almost, like, 2 minutes longer than my guild's kill. Now, that's somewhat to be expected, as my guild is doing Queen Ashara Mythic right now, and therefore we have quite a lot more of the off-piece items that come from Mythic raiding to flesh out our characters a bit more. Our characters would generally be stronger. Now, having said that, your characters aren't bad by any means, but what we have here, we think, or at least I think, let me put it on my shoulders, what I think is we have a combination of things going on here that could seriously affect you and your other guilds, because we ended up going through logs, armories, simming your guild's characters, and then what was even more interesting is the more people who got involved with trying to work out why these kill timers are so long, and they're so long for several of the bosses. We did look at, like, heroic bosses and stuff. Not that we were being stalkers or anything. We were trying to solve the problem. So put it in context, is we were like, there is a problem here. These boss kills are crazy. They're crazy long for the gear you guys have, at least based on item level, and the seeming mostly okay strats, but there is some problems there as well that you guys are doing. And we were like, it took quite a few of the world's best players to try and come up with the answers. So let's get started with something. This is the first thing that I think is going to annoy some people, but it is the truth, and it needs to be corrected. And in fact, again, this like little brain trust we put together for this one actually said they had recent developments with this on websites like Reddit and MMO Champion, where they'd been in these arguments. Practically no one in this raid is wearing benthic armor. The ones that are wearing benthic armor, in nearly 100% of cases, are wearing benthic armor that has no gem slots. The ones that are wearing benthic armor have upgraded their benthic armor with no gem slots to 425 in several cases. Now, either some of you have gone, right, because I didn't get the gem slotted piece, and other ones of you have gone, what? Why? Why have you done that? And that is a correct answer. I'm kind of just going to let this play because, like I said, there's a couple of things here I do want to point out. In fact, I'm going to point out one thing quickly before we get back to this benthic issue. Your guild overall seems to have a really, really... this is not just this boss, but we looked at like Behemoth and Radiance, have a really strict policy of doing mechanics, which is really over-encumbering your DPS players massively. Part of that, and again, the people are going to probably argue with me this, but that's fine. Argue away, I don't mind. Is your strict rules on like where these pools and stuff are dropping. They're really far away for the melee characters especially. You can see how far these guys are having to run back to deal with their stuff and then get back into the action. You can see here this DK... Fury Warrior, whatever, the melee player, is just not doing damage like forever in a fucking day, just doing no damage, just running around. The same here. You can see this character here. Look at this. Running around, waiting until the AoE stops, still running, not doing any damage, then running away a little bit, and then finally back in. And this is a common thread amongst many of your kills, that you're really overly trying to manage the fight. And part of that is actually a circular situation you guys seem to have got yourselves in, which is the fights take so long that they need to be managed more effectively, which makes the fight take even longer, so the fights need managing more correctly. Do you see where I'm going with this? And it's an issue that is prevalent in a lot of your progress fights as well. I would like to look at Radiance of Ashara, which actually... my raid leader, Alex, actually found it. He was like, whoa, what's going on here? We ended up taking a look at it. We were like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's not going to work. I'm going to bring this up on the other screen and we'll take a look at it shortly. And because of this, your overall damage is low. So while you are correct, our Affliction Warlock here, Raznos, your damage is low. It's not your fault. What's actually happening is a combination of things. Is one, this fight timer, specifically like 555, is really not lining up nicely with your cooldowns. If you think about cooldowns like 3-minute cooldowns, things like that, you're really powerful for when you're using it. And then that's going to drop off while that cooldown is ticking, right? Because you're not under the effect of that cooldown. And it peaks back up again once you get the cooldown back. So if you think about it as a graph, as you go right up, you're using cooldown, and for the next like 3 minutes, it's going to gradually lower to its lowest point, and then it's going to shoot back up again. So if you have specific timers that are like, let's just for sake of argument, put it in 3-minute blocks. 3 minutes for 2 minutes and like 50 for the sake of argument, it's going to lower, and then at 3 minutes, it's going to shoot back up again. And then for the next 2 minutes and 50, it's going to lower down to its lowest point, and then it shoots back up again because your big DPS cooldown has come back. So kill timers that are like close to 6 minutes in a lot of cases, although more recently we've discovered, certainly with things like Vision of Perfection, is that this rule is very flexible and malleable class to class. But one thing it'll do is overall lower your DPS because the fight's it's putting you in a really weird spot where that's going to happen. So this strict hard and fast rule, we've already pointed out here, has caused several of your players a ton of damage. Now, in my Savara preview, I said, try and drop the pools at the side at the beginning because it makes it easier to reset, but not in China, right? Not in Orgrimmar. Your players should be complaining that they're having to run so far. Like, yours is dead easy as a ranged player. Like, this one's really easy to do. But you can imagine if you were melee, I can tell you now, I could not convince our melee players in a million fucking years to run all this way to drop a pool. They'd be like, dude, no, give me a gateway. If you give me a gateway or something, then maybe. But if I was to try to convince the melee to have like maybe 10 seconds of downtime, they'd be like, fuck you, dude. No way. Melee have it hard enough. We're not messing around with this. And this translates into, hopefully I've got it here. This strategy. Now, some people will have seen this. This is actually a strategy we tried on the PTR. So when we did Radiance of Ashara Mythic PTR, if you're not sure what this is, by the way, this is the World of Logs replay function. Very cool to see if people are out of position or whatever. And what the guild does is, as you can see, it's spinning. So the idea with this mechanic is that everybody groups up relatively tight And when a tornado spawns, the whole raid rotates around. And that means that nobody gets affected by tornadoes, right? So, oh, excuse me, I'm an idiot and I pressed the wrong button and I have 8 million windows open. There we go. So what you can see is the group tightly gets itself together, and then tornadoes are going to spawn, and what you're going to see is the whole raid moves left. So you see them moving left, and this group's doing the same thing. Now, in theory, that means that you never have to deal with tornadoes, because you leave the tornadoes behind you, and you move around, and you're in free space. The reality is this completely and utterly destroys your DPS. Oh my god, it's awful. Like, there's no fucking way. There is just no way. Okay, so first problem is, of course, your casters and all that are just fucked every single time. And in fact, and again, fire mages, try and hold your shit. A couple of your fire mages were playing Incanter's Flow. And not having Blaster Master Azerite and things like that, which we're going to come back to. And as soon as we saw that, we're like, whoa, what the fuck? The fire mages are playing Incanter's Flow? After seeing this, I kind of get why, because they're never stood still long enough to even use a Rune of Power. That just can't happen at the Mythic level. Like, your guild is now on Ashvane Mythic, according to your logs. This is not going to work. Like, you can't play like this. It's as simple as that. You can't play like this. Like, the first three are difficult, certainly if you're going for like a heroic guild and trying out some mythic. Lady Ashvane is where it really steps up. That's just not going to work. Like, my guild has one of the world's earliest kills on Lady Ashvane, and we had to min-max super hardcore for that. And this just won't fly. Like, you're just going to be stuck there forever. And your guild seems really good in terms of your player base. Like, we went through and we're like, these guys have been together for a really long time. They look rock solid as a team. I want you guys to do really well. So this kind of stuff has to stop. It's got to stop. You can't have, like, fire mages playing, like, Incanter's Flow and stuff. It can't happen anymore. So as you can see, the guys just keep rotating around. Now, this also causes another problem. I know you guys have killed Radiance of Ashara, but for anybody else who might be trying this strat, this really fucks over ad spawns. So if you don't know Radiance of Ashara, I think it even happens on normal, is every certain percent an ad will spawn. On Mythic, you get 2 of them. And those ads are directly tied to where the raid is positioned. So there are some really nice sweet spots you can find. Usually you'd have a group like here and a group here-ish, like there. That's where we do it anyway. And that will mean that the ads will spawn relatively close to you. That's what happens. The ads will spawn relatively close to you. Now, if we watch what happens here, what you're actually going to see is the ads, like, spawn in really weird spots. Like, they're looking for the ads, and you can see people trying to get out. You can see the confusion this is causing, because the ads are about as far away as they can possibly be. Look at this. Look where these ads spawned. Like, this is bad. And you can see, like, how awkward this was to get through the squall traps and things in order to manage this. Whereas typically what you would find is a guild will just spawn them and be on them, like, instantaneously. And that's what you're after. So I'm gonna hold myself accountable here. I'm gonna bring up my replay, or at least my guild's replay, so you can see, look at the spread our guys have. Right? That's me. What's my rule on Radiance of Ashara? Stay the fuck away from me. Do not spawn a tornado near me, motherfucker. Leave me alone. And you'll see as well, Fire Mage, get the fuck away from me. Right? Same with Morgan on his Balance Druid. Just fuck off. Get away from me. Leave me alone. You can see exactly where I'm stood. Like, leave me the fuck alone. Because if I get a tornado on me, fine. I've got all these places to move and do all those kinds of things. But if you start standing on top of each other, you're guaranteeing tornado spawns on you. And that's really quite annoying. You don't want that to happen. Look how spread these guys are. We're moving for some tornadoes. I've had to move there, but it didn't affect anyone else, especially these BM hunters just around. Look at me finding a spot on my own. That's what I'm doing. Look where I'm going. Like, leave me alone. I'll stay back here. I'm more than fine to stay back here. You can see I've circled around a tornado. I'm trying to find a spot. The spawn's coming in soon, so I'm going to gather up with the boys. That's kind of how we get this done, is by just get the fuck away from me. That's all I want you to do, is just get the fuck away from me. And hopefully we can see an ad spawn, which is pretty close to us. These guys are already there. Right? These guys are so fortunate our tank went that way. Really unfortunate. But you can see we picked a spot and off we went, and we're already there and we're DPSing with them, right? So that's something to bear in mind as well. Because this is kind of a running theme, is this idea of control. And it feels like your guild is very much trying to gain control of things. And by doing so, they're really ruining your damage output. And that's not going to fly later into the instance. And as I said, I want you guys to do well. Coming back then to this benthic thing. So the argument that people have been having, at least in my guild, I haven't had it, is it's if you don't get the gem slot pieces and you're now raiding mythic, it's better to upgrade those pieces because of course they're higher item level. They'll do more damage. Like, it's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's Blizzard's fault. Gem slots are worth so much damage. So much damage. They're just so valuable to have that statement is incorrect. It is far better to spend those hundreds of pearls, and I'm sorry to say this, in nearly all cases, it's far better to spend those hundreds of pearls fishing for the correct braces or whatever. And bear in mind, it is totally fine that you're not 425, which costs another 100 pearls. 420 is just 5 item levels behind. It's bog all. It's the affixes and the procs you want, and you want that gem slot for all that extra damage. So those pearls essentially are wasted. It sucks. Because I know some of you out there, I spent 800 pearls getting all my gear. 800 pearls I spent to get my 6 benthic pieces. There are people who've spent way more than me and still don't have 5 of their pieces. But they're so valuable. So what we did see is, of course, some of your... Now, I don't know the rules of your guild. I obviously don't know whether... You're a 2-day raiding guild, which is great because you're in Mythic. Like, you're really... You know, your players are all right. But you're really suffering from this lack of stuff. Now, it might be a case if you're a relatively casual guild, so it's like we don't expect you to farm pearls and stuff. Okay. But if you're raiding Mythic, I would hope, for the most part, if you're okay with spending like hours of your time wiping to a boss because of low damage, that you should be okay with getting some of the pearls together to have the best possible items in the game. I think that's a fair compromise, especially considering that we're now like a couple of months into the raid being out. Certainly since we are a long time from when we could start getting mana pearls together, that it's something you should be doing because they are the best, in a lot of cases, they're the best possible item you can get. There's nothing waiting for you inside this raid that's going to be better than those. And they come with gem slots, which are obscenely powerful. They're obscenely powerful, and you need to make that effort to get that done. And no, upgrading a non-gem, certainly not to 425. That last, like, is it 100 pearls from go to 42? Yeah, it's 100 pearls from 420 to 425. I mean, if you really want to have a higher item level piece and put a non-gem piece to 420, I don't agree with it, but at least it's cheap. Then the next 100 pearls that you get, just keep fishing. Get those gem slots because you're going to have them from now until the end of the tier. Excuse me. I'm going to have them from now until the end of the tier. It's well worth it. So that's something I'd look at. Okay. Let's let this play. The third piece of things that we noticed while going through this is... I have to be very careful about this because I'm not trying to upset your guild or anything, but it looks like in a lot of cases that your guys don't really know how to sim. And again, this is really kind of something that's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's Blizzard's fault. That there were some really questionable choices amongst a lot of your players, from essences just to gear in general. Like stats you would never want on certain specs. I was looking at the Balance Druids, and they're doing okay, for, you know, in your guild. But there were stats on them that you would just never want in your life. Like if that piece of gear dropped for me, even if it was Titan Forged, I would just scrap it immediately. I would equip it so I'd unlock the slot and then I'd get rid of it in the bin. Yet your guys are equipping it. Now, I don't know, and this will be on you to decide, and anybody else watching this who might be in a similar scenario, is whether or not some of your guys are equipping the highest item level stuff they have and calling it good because it's higher than what they had, or are they simming incorrectly, or do they just not know how to sim? And I've done videos on how you sim yourself. It's a very quick process to get that done. But it's something you need to be aware of because it's a trap that has existed in the game now since it really came into the forefront in Legion, where... This is what's happening in some cases. I think this is what's happening. And again, I'm having to make some guesswork on this. It strikes me that what has in fact happened to some of your players as they've come into this tier, certainly if you were doing well last tier, is that they've equipped items that are higher item level, or maybe they've gone down to the Titan Resident vendor or something like that, and they've tried for their like mythic piece. It's not been the one they wanted, but it's it's 15 item levels higher or whatever, so they've stuck it on. I can tell you from my own personal experience, and this did happen on stream, is that The chest I got was a 1,000 DPS downgrade than the one that was 15 items leveled lower. That's the nature of the beast. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. It is true. Right? That's the nature of the beast. And it does feel like in some of the cases going through the raid roster is that a few of your players are doing that. Now, again, we're not picking on the guild or anything like that. It might just be a case of we wear what we wear and that's what we do and we're okay with it. Fine. That's totally fine. But for anybody else watching this who might be in that situation, be careful. Be careful, because you can get upgrades that actually just smash your DPS into the floor. That's just the way it is. You can get what should be an upgrade. And recently we've had problems with like the original 415 dual crafting rings being so bis and having a gem slot that there are many like 445 rings with gem slots that aren't as good. And we've had to deal with that in our raids where it's like, okay, this is like a 30 DPS increase for me. And for someone else, it's like, well, that's like 2,000 or something stupid. Whereas those people who are wearing these 415 rings are in that same scenario. That's something you're going to have to be careful of, particularly if you're just equipping stuff that comes out of like your Mythic Plus box, something along those lines. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the comment section could probably share their horror stories of running into this situation where you're just getting stuff, it's higher item level than what you have, maybe it's even got a gem slot, but it's actually worse than the stuff you're already wearing from a tier or so ago. And that's something you really need to be careful of, because I do feel like some of your players have fallen into that trap of just equipping whatever's better, or it looks better, or it feels like it should be better. You know, something along those lines, go with gut instincts. And unfortunately, again, it's something that you deal with at mythic level. I mean, of course, this is a problem. Like, you should be moving in order to prevent yourself from being stunned here. I mean, there's, you know, that's something you will have learnt by being stunned. You know, being stunned will have done that. Your resetting is really nice. Yeah, it's really, really nice. But other than that, it's a case of a lot of this kind of boiled down. This was a big puzzle. This was a really big puzzle to solve because it wasn't obvious what the problem was. It came down to a little bit of too much control. I mean, we're what, like 4 minutes into this fight? This boss should be dying soon. Look how much free space you've got left. Like, it's nice and it's pretty, but, I mean, on farm? Fuck that. Just blow her up, dude. Just fucking kick her ass, man. I mean, there were some little things as well. One thing that really upset, or didn't upset, I shouldn't say that, but one thing Alex noticed straight away is that you lust immediately. Like, this triggers the shit out of me because you haven't even got your placements yet, and everybody's going to have to move to either Frost or Nature. But it's not, I mean, you're okay because you got Nature, so you just stood still. But for some people, look, you can see the Fire Mages having to run around. Now you know why they're not using Rune of Power for things like this, right? You can see they're going straight into like their combustions and stuff, and then they're getting the marks, and then they're having to run around with it and blink into different scenarios in order to get, you can see what's happening here. So it's something you really want to watch out for. Is just if you wait like 5 seconds with the Lust, people can fire off their initial spells, and then they go for a completely stood still, balls to the wall Bloodlust, which is what you want, or heroism is in this case. That's what you're after. You're after that situation where people are like, right, I'm set, let's go. What I don't want to do is be doing like major DPS cooldowns without ramped up spells that are taking advantage of this. It's just a little thing like that. Like we wouldn't do that. We'd wait till we're in position, then we'd Bloodlust. It's a delay of like 3 seconds that allows just maximum nukage, which is what you want from this scenario. So a lot to take in there, I think, and good advice for guilds. And again, I'm thankful you sent me this because this was a real puzzler. We had to go and do some hunting to figure this out because your overall gameplay was fine, and we're like, okay, but wait a minute, this video's that was what caught us onto it. It was like, this video's lasting a really long time. Huh, that's weird. Like, why is it lasting so long? And that's when we started to find these things. So hopefully we've covered that with the overly controlling fights. Put a little faith to the raid leader who might be like, no, because my raiders don't do this. Put some faith in your raiders to deal with themselves, right? I mean, that's the strategy we kind of adopted. It doesn't work for everybody. I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't work for everybody. But just try and let your raiders deal with themselves. Like certainly on fights like Raiders of Ashara, and be aware that when you're overly managing fights, like what is the negative effects of it? Because you might see it as only positive. Like it's only a positive if we really control the pools. You know, micromanage this It's only a positive, right? Well, no, there's always positives and negatives to what you're doing. Always positive and negatives. That's how strategies are devised. Is this a benefit to us? What's the negative effect of doing this? And then try to figure out from there what's the best solution. And if your melee are running around for like 10 plus seconds during Bloodlust, right? What's the last thing you want here? We're lusted. These guys are like full nuke ability right now. We've got the melee running around and doing stuff instead of just dropping it over to this side right here near the wall or just here. Like, look at all the people that ran away. Look at all the melee. Oh, that poor paladin during wings. Fair play to Mr. Sirona there, who sacrificed his own damage to run around a little bit there. Okay, so that's today's workshop. Thank you very much. For those of you who are looking to submit on our Discord channel, actually, this has just been set up this week by Mr. Chiryu, is that if you want to submit your workshop, you can get them put here, and we can see them there. It's in the bot spam channel. There is simply a exclamation mark workshop space and your YouTube link, and then it will pop into here for me to check. A little bit easier than the Discord system. So if you try that, and also if you just search workshop, which I did... workshop, which I did recently. It's like I came here to submit my workshop. There's like a little thing there in order to break it down. So you just type in search workshop and you will be fine and dandy. All right. So thank you very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that helps you out. I look forward to your feedback. Goodbye.